Well, thank you very much. I get to sort of bring this thing to a close. I think it's been a good afternoon and one that just flew by for me at least. And I even learned some things that maybe I knew them at one point, but I remembered them after hearing some of our speakers. One of my thoughts is that once in a while the public company audit profession does something very well, and I think the CAQ is clearly one of those things. At the front end, there was a small group of us trying to figure out how this thing, the shape and feel of this organization, we're trying to find our voice, as Jim Turley said. And there were two things I think were really critical, and we all agreed on it. One was the person running the organization should not be an accountant or an auditor. And if you've ever done a budget with Cindy, you'll know that there's no risk of that. And the other one is going to sound a little strange, but the CEOs have to be the governing board, not delegates, but the CEOs. 1978, when we started self-regulation, we didn't have CEOs. They weren't that important then. They were just called managing partners. But the 25 people on that committee were all the managing partners of the 25 largest firms. A few years later, delegation. It wasn't the CEOs anymore. But those are the people that own the resources, own the commitment, and have the vision for the firm that can really make decisions and bind the firm. Here we are 10 years later, it's still the CEOs, and I'm very thrilled that that's the case, because it's one of the reasons why we've been successful. Heard a lot of stuff from some great speakers today. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I thought this last panel was fantastic. I wrote a lot of it down because I didn't understand it, but I've got time the rest of the week because I am retired. I do think the CAQ is successful for a couple really important reasons beyond the structure of not having an auditor as our CEO and having the board comprised of the firms. We launched the CAQ at a time, and we did it very well. I'm not certain it was it was our intention to do it, but it worked. We got some very good advice on communications, and we did not make the CAQ about the auditors. We were looking at what was going on in the marketplace at the time, and we gained our credibility from the outset with some very important constituencies, not the least of which were many of the investors. I also think the mission of the CAQ is congruent with the mission of our regulators. So again, we're not being oppositional, we're actually trying to supplement moving the model forward in a positive way for the markets at large. And as a convener, just tremendous success getting all these great organizations to work with us, and it's been mutually successful, I think. And even though it sounds so silly, the firms are committed to working together on a single agenda. And when you've got all the firms pointing in the same direction, we have our differences, but when the product comes out and we all can agree to it, I think we're in a great place. So the bottom line is the public company audit profession is better able to serve investors and markets thanks to the CAQ. I do have one thing for you to remember. It's a little spelling lesson. Force for Good is spelled CAQ. I like that very much. We'll see you in 10 years. Thank you.